Okay, so once again, good evening. I think now you are in the fifth week of the semester. The fifth week means you already completed the 4 sessions. Okay, before the session, so what is the name of the subject, Lamai? So what is the name of the subject? The name of the subject is managerial economics. So what we discuss under the managerial economics? This is not a complex. The managerial economics means the practical application of the microeconomics. In business terms, we call the managerial economics. As a manager, how you are going to use that practical application to solve the business problem. Because now you are being an economist. Now you are become the economist. So that's the reason for this time we are fully focused in the case studies with the theory part. Okay, today I will discuss with you the theory. For the next day, I will start with the case study and continue in the remaining sessions as well. Okay, so the managerial economics means simply, so this is the application part of the microeconomics you learned in your first year. So the managerial means as a manager, as a economics, how you are going to use that knowledge to solve the different kind of practical application. So as an example, if it is a econ, so the microeconomics, if you are using the microeconomics like a science. මේක ළමයි අපි කියනවා microeconomics කියන්නේ science. But the managerial economics like a engineering, if it is a science, this become the engineering. Why? So if it is become engineering means what? When we are taking the rules or the particular concept from the microeconomics, we are going to build an efficient as well as the profitable business segments or the business decisions within the organizations we call the managerial economics. Okay, so that's why you learn the managerial economics for the third year first semester. Without taking much more time, for the today's discussion based on production theory and efficiency. Production theory and efficiency. Before the sessions, there is a 2 words, Nelamai. The one called production theory, the second one become the efficiency. Please explain to me. So what is production theory? What is production theory? Can you explain? So production theory, production means you are going to produce. The production means simply how business turns into the product. How inputs, when you are taking the inputs, how you are going to convert that inputs to the final goods and services we call the production theory. Today we are going to learn the different kind of production theories, the conversion process of input into the output. The efficiency means what? Because with the process, if you are take the inputs to the process and making the process, you will produce the outputs. The outputs means what? The outputs become the final goods and services. The final goods and services means efficient means you need to utilize the resources efficiently. Resources efficiently means what? You need to reduce your wastage. So if you are reducing your wastage in your inputs, you are going to produce your maximum outputs within the business. We call the production theory and efficiency. So this is a simple understanding. With that, we can proceed. If anything to be clarified, you can ask, Lamaya. So these are the learning outcomes of the today's session, because sometimes the last 3 learning outcomes, if you are unable to complete, I will put the another additional session. So that means first thing you need to define the production function, and you need to identify the differences between short run and the long run, because now you have become the economist. අපි ආර්ථික විද්‍යාඥයෙක් විදිහට තමයි ඔයා දැන් හිතන්නේ. As the economics, you need to identify short term and the long term. For the second one, if it is a production, every production, the input conversion process is subject to the loss of diminishing returns. And you need to identify that there are three stages. Out of three stages, what is the best stage to engage with the production in short run as well as the long run? Because if you are given the case studies, these are the things we are going to test it from you. Any conversion process is subject to the diminishing returns. At the single word, we call the Hinavana Antika Paladhanitiya. So if kind of any production processes, that everything subject to the law of diminishing returns. With that curves, you can identify the tree stage. With that tree stage, you need to identify what is the best stage to the organization. With the production means my conversion. With that conversion, the organization can use the various kind of forms. You need to identify and describe what are the various kind of forms, and you need to estimate, being a manager of the organization, you need to estimate how your organization production functions going to formulate. So relating to the one production function, so the best function is the Cobb-Douglas function. You need to identify what does mean by the Cobb-Douglas function and how Cobb-Douglas functions happens within the organizations. That everything you need to understand. So if you are engaging with the different kind of functions, finally you need to identify the isocont and the isocost curve. So you need to identify isocont and isocost curves, and you need to explain how this tangency and curves determine the optimum quantity of output. Because the more outputs we can produce, out of this you need to produce what is the more profitable output to the organization. And final thing is, being a manager of the organization, you need to determine so which quantity you are going to produce by using the minimum inputs. So that's all, Lamai. Don't worry. So this is a very simple discussion, and if anything you can ask. Oh, this is the overview. So what does actually happen? So if you are become the manager or any kind of person within the organization relating to the business, if it is a business, this can be a production related business, so this can be a service related business. So other than that, there is no any kind of business. What actually did? So what they actually do? So they are going to produce their final outcomes. Within the business, they try to produce their outcomes. To produce the outcomes, what they need to take the different kind of inputs. The second picture shows you two inputs. So different kind of inputs, they incur their production processes and they are converting. Which kind of inputs they can take, Amai? What are the inputs they will take? So to produce this one, you already learned in your microeconomics. So they need to take the land production factors. They need to take the land, they need to take the labor, they need a capital. Capital means covering machinery, buildings and everything. And also they need the entrepreneurship. They need the entrepreneurships. These inputs, they need to convert this input into the different kind of the outputs. These are the outputs. If it is a car manufacturing company, their final output become the car. If it is a clothing company, their final outcome is the finished clothes. So that means, being an organization, your role is to determine. Being an organization, you can decide, so this is enough to produce the 100 cars. Or someone says not to 100, so we need to produce 150. So now the different kind of quantities they can produce within the available resources. The resources are scarce, Lamai. The resources are scarce. So within the organization, as an economist, you need to decide. So without earning any kind of losses, your target is not to earn the loss. Your target is by minimizing the your wastage to earn the maximum amount of profits when you are converting the input into the output process. Your final point being an economist. Well, economics connect now, you cannot earn the losses because you need to think about the economist perspective. So these are the things we are going to discuss under this lesson. What is mean by the production function? Our topic also the production function. What is mean by the production function, Lamai? Production function. Simply, production function means what? Production function. Production function means so that means the production function. So the that picture you can identify to production function means convert your inputs. These are the labor resources. They need the machineries and everything. So when you are looking at the machinery, you can identify the hiding factor as well. The machinery means the machinery always represent technology as well. To produce the different kind of the products, the technology also important. With that combining with your factor, you will be completed, you will be prepared, you will be release your final output to the market. This is a strawberry. So that means your final outcome. The production function means this is function level. So the function means conversion of these inputs to the output. This is a very general idea. So being a third year student, you cannot write like this because now you have become the managerial economist. So the managerial as a managerial position. So the production function means as a managerial economist, you need to define the maximum quantity you are going to produce. Api hadanne mechcharai. So other than that, we are not prepare any kind of things if you have the resources or not. So your role is the production function means define the maximum quantity of output. So you need to define the maximum quantity you can produce with available resources. Available resources with given technology. So this is your role. The production function means not to prepare the any kind of the outputs they want. Being an economist, you need to decide to produce how much of quantity for the requirement and given various output input and the technology for the inputs means what am I? So which kind of resources you want to produce your final output? Inputs can make it dane lamai. Input means which kind of resources you require to produce your output. So that means for the reduction function, we can identify the two kind of inputs. To produce, you need a capital covering, you need a machinery, you need a spaces, you need any kind of the raw material, not a raw material, you need vehicles, that everything covered by the capital. We represent the K and the labor resources. We are going to discuss these two. So relating to the labor, what you know? The relating to the labor means this is the live resources within the organization. At any time you can change the labels. අද ඔයා වැඩට එන්න එපා කිව්වොත් you can change. So but to capital, the movement is very rare. So that means you have to make another kind of efforts to change the capital within the organization. as a function. අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න ළමයි function එක. So that means the entire production function depend on the two inputs, simply two inputs, the labor and the capital. So that means you can write down the as a function Q equal function of. Function of කියන එකේ meaning එක මොකක්ද ළමයි? The function of means this is fully depend on these two, L and K. So that means, so the L means the quantity of labor. So the quantity of capital means the K, and the output become the Q. So your role is to determine when the Q. So your role become to determine the Q with the available resources and the technology. Inputs. We discuss the inputs. Inputs means what, Lamai? What is this input? Input means, so whichever the resources we need, this is the resources required for the production. So which kind of resources we have? For the according to the production function, we have only the two kind of resources. So that means we have L and we have K function, labor and the capital. So relating to this one, so you need to identify the fixed inputs and the variable input. The fixed input means what? The fixed input. For the production, if it is a short term or the long term, both two are required. The first thing, both two are required. So without fixed capital, can you can you make the goods and services? Can you prepare? No, you can't. So that means the fixed one, that means a fixed input means this is a required one for the production process. Required, but the important thing is the fixed input means being a manager, you cannot change within the particular time period. So if it required the some kind of periods to change, simply fix our input means being the manager, you cannot easily adjust within the organization. We call the fixed input. Fixed related is Thavara. So that means without fixed K, so that means the fixed input means simply K lamai. The without K, you cannot produce. So that means this is essential for the essential input. That another one, fixed mean namema තියෙනවනේ ළමයි. If it is a fixed, that means does not change over the period of time. Does not change. And we can link it as the economist. If you are become the economist, you cannot change the particular fixed inputs within the short run. You cannot change. Because sometimes you are, as the example, if it is a manufacturing machinery, physical spaces and the capacity, these are become the fixed. Because to change this one, it's take a more time. So as I think about, if you have the building for the 10 years, if you are a work that building around the 10 years, and after the 10 years you may acquire another additional building, we call you expand your resources. That means the around the 10 years your building become the fixed one, but after 10 years, that means 11 years onwards, this resources also you change. So that means after the 11 years, this is become the long term. The fixed means required input for the production. The constant, this is constant. Normally the manager or the particular economics cannot change within the shorter time period. The variable means this is a vary with your production, that is also required. So the variable inputs mean this is always vary with the output. So that means a labor. So if you are decided to produce only the 300 outputs, you can save. If there is any labor excess supply was there, you can give the different kind of option to them. Sometimes you can remove the particular excess supply from the company. You can give the option for the early retirement. So likewise, the different kind of things you can give. But the important of the variable input means if you have the zero production, if you have the zero production, you have the variable inputs become zero. Without variable input, you cannot run the production process. To run, that means if your production output becomes zero. If your output becomes zero means, but there is a fixed input was there. So if you are already purchased the machinery, if you have the building, these are the fixed. But no output means there is a no any variables as well. බඩු මොකක්වත් හදන්නේ නැත්නම් ළමයි අපිට මිනිස්සු ඕනේ නැහැ. So that means relating to the variable inputs means as a manager, you can adjust within the organization. We can adjust within the production process. We call the variable inputs. So the variable means if it is a direct raw material, if it is a direct labor, if it is a variable overhead, that everything change with your production requirement. Now with the variable and the fixed part, now we are moving to the short run production process. If it is a production function, the production function consists with only the two part. දැන් ඔළුවේ තියෙන්න ඕන ළමයියා. Two part we call Q, sorry. There is a K and capital was there and the labor. So these two are the production function. So the short run means what? Short term means what? The short term means, short run means the short term. This is a period of time. So if at least your one resources within the production process should be fixed. So at least one production input. So that means simply at least one resource, at least one input should be stable, should be constant, should be fixed within the production process. We call this is a short run. ඔක්කොම fixed වෙන්න ඕනේ නෑ ළමයි. At least one should be there. So relating to your organization, if there is any kind of input resource you have as a constant, we call the short term. Short term. So, but if you take if with the time being, if that constant input also change, we cannot say this is a short term. This is a short term. So simply the short run means at least there should be a one fixed input. If all the input become the variable, so this is a long term. එතකොට ඒකයි මේ කොටු කරලා තියෙන්නේ ළමයි. Short term production function, to identify the short term production function, the function should be consist with at least one fixed variable. At least one fixed variable should be there. For how they take the short run decision, how they take the short run decisions. So the short run, if they have only the two ළමයි, K and L, so that means K become constant. That means they can only take the decision based on the L. එයාට short run එකේදී with the short run production process, so they can only change the labor resource only. They can make all the changes to the L. They cannot make the changes to the K. If you need to change the K, so the time should be changed as a long term. In the short term, important thing is labor function become change, but the capital is not changed within the time. So that's the reason as a function, this should be constant. L plus K bar. So this is the short run production function. Short run. The next one, long run production function. So the long run become one. So the short run means at least one fix should be there. එතකොට long run එකේදී මොකද වෙන්න ඕනේ? For the long run, the time required to change all the variables, all the inputs into the variable term we call the long term. All the inputs, we have the K and L. For the entire how many time required to convert the K into the variable term, we call the long run. Because if you change the K, so that production process become vary. So if you, after the 15 or 10 years, you expand your building capacity, you purchase the additional machinery to the organization, you change the machinery. So that means the 11 years onward become everything variable. That means we call the long run. For the long run, the being a manager or being an economist, you can adjust all the factors of production. So if you have the different kind of inputs, you can change all the inputs within the long run period. Everything you can adjust. So as example I explained, so if you are a purchase additional building for the company after 50 years, after 50, you engage with the after the 50, you engage with the long run. After the 50, you engage with the long run. Before the 50, you are in the short run. Short run. As a function, you can write down the normal production function. The reason is there is no any constant term. You can change everything. So this is the short run and long run. With the short run or long run, what we are going to produce? Minname short run, the long run, the Kerala. So what we are going to produce? So we are going to produce goods and services. Because as a production function, we are in the input conversion into the output. But our output, we need to measure it. How we are going to measure our productivity? You need to measure it. How you are going to measure it? Measures of productivity. What is the meaning of productivity? So productivity become the decision making criteria. So that means how productivity means මොකක්ද ළමයි? So the productivity means how much of output you get from a specific amount of input. Productivity, how much output you get from a specific amount of input. Input එක දාලා කොච්චරක් you obtain, we call the productivity. Relating to the productivity, you need to identify with our decision is to profit maximization or if it is earning a loss or anything. Because now you need to analyze it. Before the analyze the productivity means simply, so by using the specific inputs, you need to try to take the maximum output. If you are to take the maximum by using the less input, we can say you are productive. You are productive. So what are to measure the productivity? Only you can use the two part ළමයි. අපිට මේකට එක එක දාන්න බෑ. Productivity means whichever the inputs we have අපි ගාව තියෙන දෙන්නයි. So the K and L. So that means the productivity also we can measure based on these two. Input එකට නෙදාන්නේ ළමයි. That means by using the specific amount of labor, so how many quantity we take. By using the specific amount of capital, how many quantity of output we take. So that is called the productivity. To measure the productivity, we have the three kind of measures. First one, total product. The second one, the average product. And the third one become the marginal product. Total product means what? Total product. Total product means total product means what? Your total output with a given amount of input. So that means the total nilamai. Total product means your total product of your total output with the given amount of inputs we call the total product. කොච්චර හැදුවද දුන්න දෙයින් we call the total product. TP curve as a curve you need to identify the TP. So the average product, average means what? Average product means to generate the total product, how much, how they contribute from providing the variable input. So the contribution relating to the variable input for the total product we call the average product. Contribution, how they contribute to generate the total product. Only the variable input you need to take. So the some definitions also given. The total output to the amount of variable input used. Based on the used variable input, so what is your average output? So that means you need to divide the variable input. Variable input means you need to divide this one based on the L. අපි ගාව තියෙන variable input එක ළමයි L නේ. If it is a long term, you need to take L and K both together. Marginal product. Marginal means at any time the incremental part. Incremental means you are going to increase, you are going to change total output. You are going to change the total output by changing one unit of your variable input. So you are going to change your total output by changing one or more variable. That means simply to measure the marginal impact, you need to change only the one variable input. So if you are changing the one variable input, you are going to analyze the how your total output become changed. So that means the incremental change. Simply the marginal product also change එකක් කියන්නේ delta නේ. Delta MP should be there. Delta MP with the changes to the variable. අපි ගාව තියෙන variable become the label. So that means delta L. Delta L. So the productivity to take the decision, this tree should be there. So these are the calculation. So now we also calculate the different kind of values. So this is the specialty of this subject. The productivity we can measure by using the three values. The total means you already know. The total means total output you produce. The average product we can measure by using the two. If it is based on the variable contribution to the total product, if it is only the labor, so AP of labor, L means the labor, AP average product, Q, the Q means simply this is the total product, TP. TP divided by L. So if it is a capital also become variable for the long term, this function you can use the APK equal Q divided by K. For the marginal product means if you are changing one unit of your input, how it make changes in your total output. The incremental change you are going to identify the delta Q, or this can be the delta TC, sorry, not the delta TC, delta TP divided by delta L if it is the labor. So if it is a capital, you can take the K as well. So these are the formulas. Now you need to analyze how the AP, MP, and the TP happen within the organization. The behavior of each tree you need to identify. Okay. Now you have the three kind of variables. No, sorry, not a variables, three kind of graphs you have. So what that graphs mentioned, the first one, the red color one become the TP. TP means the total product. The total product means what? Total product means the output produced within the available amount of inputs. What happened to the TP? You need to analyze it. TP continuously increasing and increasing වැඩි වීගෙන යනවා, and they come to the specific point. After that they are start to decline. So as I first mentioned, being an economist or manager, you cannot produce the different kind of output based on your requirement. You need to analyze. හදුවොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? You can analyze by using the graph. You can produce, but what happened? That your total productivity, total revenue continuously increasing, total TP continuously increasing, and finally what happened? It's become to decrease. The another one, the marginal revenue curve. The green color one, marginal revenue. Marginal revenue, what happened? Marginal revenue, the continuously increasing to that point. After that, what happened? This become to decrease. Marginal revenue decreased. If the marginal revenue decrease means what? What does mean? Marginal revenue decrease. What does mean? මොකක්ද එකකින් ගන්න තියෙන්නේ ළමයි? So if the marginal revenue become decrease, so what does mean? If the marginal revenue decrease means the marginal revenue, the marginal MR, MP or marginal productivity come to the marginal productivity decrease means that means if you are changing your inputs by using the one variable, that's the change to your total output. So what happened to the output? So if you change one variable, your MP marginal productivity become decrease. ඔයාගේ out make a number of quantity become increase, but you are not productive. You are not productive. So always you need to try to maintain the positive amount of marginal productivity. Check the average productivity also increasing and increasing to that point. After that, this is the highest one. After that, this is also become decrease. AP also decrease. AP decrease means AP become decrease means you average. So that means for the each variable by using the each one unit. So what happened? Your each unit contribution become decrease. This is a observation. So after that, come to the TP curve with the highest position of the highest point of the TP. So the highest is this one with the highest. So you can check the values of the MP and AP. So what happened with the highest position? So you need to take the highest part of the TP and you can draw a line. So we call this is a stage 3 measurements. So stage 3 means normally you need to identify the MP curve. MP curve values become decrease and values become the -1. So that means if your TP become decrease, what happened to your MP? Your MP become decrease and MP reach to the minus, and also AP become decrease. So as an economist, you cannot select any kind of position in between stage 2 to achieve the profit maximization. So if you are to select the optimum quantity in between stage 3, so that means you may end up with the negative marginal returns. So the negative marginal, that means negative means if you are increase the, if you are going to change, you are change the 1 by 1 units, but you are ended with the marginal revenue, your side the revenue become decrease. වැඩක් නෑ ළමයි. ඔයා මොකද කරන්නේ? ඔයා වැඩිපුර workers ලව දාගෙන at least as an example you may hire the new workers full within the organization, but actually what happened, there is no any contribution relating to your profitability. Workers ලා වැඩි වුණා කියලා තේරුමක් නැහැ. So that means stage 3 is not a good. So where the point become the highest point in the TP, at that point your MP become to make a negative numbers. එයා try කරනවා negative වලට යන්න. Come to this one. So where the point? The MP equal to the AP. MP equal to the AP. So where the point? These two lines are touched. So you can mark the identify the stage 1, so that entire become the stage 1. The specialty of the stage 1 is what happened. So if you are to look at the TP curve, the TP, the revenue continuously increasing. You can see the revenue continuously increasing. So if it is an increasing means, so to increase that one, you need to give the particular inputs. So what are those inputs you have? If these two are equal, what happen? ළමයි දැන් මෙතනදී මොකද වෙන්නේ? Anyone? So the MP equal to the AP. So this is the stage 1. For the stage 1, your total revenue, the continuously increasing. So what happened? So that means you can identify because the K become constant. So that means you have the ability to increase the productivity. If you are in the stage 1, the important thing is relating to the stage 1, you cannot decide the optimum quantity. The why? So you can comment the marginal revenue also increasing, they reach to the positive one, but the AP also having the positive one. The reason is you cannot decide the optimum quantity in between stage 1. The reason is the average workers full, the average production now. So if your average workers are there, but to increase the production, you can make the changes in between your capital as well. You need to make the changes to the capital in that increase in marginal return. මේ ඒරියා එකේ ළමයි වැඩි වීගෙන යන ඒරියා එක. එතකොට අපි වැඩි වෙන ඒරියා එකේ වැඩි වෙන්න යාට allow කරනවා. So that means the reason is මේ පැත්තේ බැලුවොත් the MP curve is higher than the AC curve. MP වැඩිනේ. Marginal productivity is higher than the average productivity. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එන එකට වඩා average එක වැඩි marginal එක. එකක් වෙනස් කරොත් වෙන එක වැඩි වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි? So in that, the TP has quickly increasing. So you change only the labels as well. You change only the label. So that means if you are change new workers full the average production now. So the new workers full. In the workers like a full කරලා තියෙන්නේ. But this is not a good area because you have the capital, you didn't change. But if you change it, sometimes you can reach to the another level. So that means may area के the performance only based on the labor performance, because if it is in position to the upward trending, you should allow to increase. So that means if it is a marginal revenue is high, marginal productivity is higher than the average productivity. So this is also not good. Why the marginal part? එකක් වැඩි කරොත් එන එක ඊට වඩා වැඩි නම් ළමයි අපි මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ? average එක අඩු ඊට වඩා. ඇයි average එක අඩු වෙන්නේ? The reason is a capital was there. I capital එකකට මේවා කරලා ගන්න. Without change in capital, the labor is also achieve their maximum. But you need to think about how you are going to change the capital. එතකොට ඒ area එකෙන් ඔයාට නතර වෙන්නත් බෑ. The next area, the position of the area between the highest TP and the where the TP equal to the where the TP was there at the point of MR and MC. MR MC සමාන වෙද්දී TP එකේ ඉන්න position එකට එන්න ඕන. So with that position what happened? So in here we can identify the marginal revenue what happened. Then we name marginal productivity goes down. So after this point, the marginal productivity goes down and average productivity higher than marginal one. As a rational economics, because the marginal revenue and the average revenue both are positive value. Both are in positive. Being a rational economist, now you can take the decision. So within the stage 2 decrease in area, you need to identify your optimum quantity. So you need to identify the optimum quantity in between the stage 2. Stage 2, you can comment they are going to decrease the marginal productivity, but our requirement is marginal productivity should be positive, but in that area what happened, labels are fully effective, but the capital we cannot change. For the stage 2, the workplace getting full. So now the workplace getting full, so that's the reason the marginal productivity become decreased. දැන් මෙතන මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා නම් මිනිස්සුන්ට කරන්න පුළුවන් සීමාවක් තියෙනවනේ. ඒ සීමාවත් කරලා තමයි මේක අඩු වෙන්න මේ ගන්න. එතකොට අපිට ඔළුවට එන්න ඕන අම්මට සිලි දැන් අඩු වෙනවා. Then what I need to do is now I need to decide the optimum quantity in between this stage. So being a rational economist, your decision should be in between the stage 2. Yes. So in that decision, you can identify the MP, the marginal productivity become decrease. Why? Why marginal productivity become decreased? The marginal productivity means that if you are changing the inputs by one variable units, how that responds to how that change the total productivity, the impact to the total productivity. So that is subject to the law of diminishing return. So this is subject to the law of diminishing return. So why? So you already know the Q is function of the L and K. Function of L and K. So what happened? You can increase this one without taking more, but this is become the constant. So if it is a constant, so what happened at any specific point, your marginal product become decline. So the rule we call the law of diminishing return. Diminishing කියන්නේ මොකක්ද ළමයි? හීන වෙනවා. So returns become diminishing means return should be decreased. But at the first stage, what happened to the TP? දැන් අපි පළවෙනි එකෙන් එපා කිව්වනේ. TP වැඩි වීගෙන ගියා. Our return become the MP. MP හෙන high. The MP value is high, but we not ended with the optimum quantity within this. Why? The reason is there is a capital was there. So sometimes if you are increase in your labor is fully okay, but due to the limitation of the capital, you cannot change. The law of diminishing means when you are increasing your variable inputs, then combining with the fixed inputs, within the specific point, your marginal product become decline. This point we call the law of diminishing return. So that means if your selection decision should subject to the law of diminishing return. So where the point at the stage of MP become decrease, MP වැඩි වෙනවා නම් you need to allow to achieve their highest one. But if it is going to decline, so without allowing to the lowest one, you need to control. So after that, I'm not going to extend the production. As a rational economist, you should be select your decision in between the operating stage 2. That means where the point equal MRM, marginal productivity equal to the marginal average productivity. In another term, we can say if it is MR equal to the AC and the highest point of the TP. The stage 3s are not good. Why stage 3 is not good? The MPs are negative. MP negative when the MP negative means if you are increasing your input, making if you increase the input, what happened? You may end up with your change become the negative one. So you are definitely earn the loss. So no need to earn the losses. Because sometimes if you are hiring the additional workers or if you are hire the additional machine, what happen? That will reduce your total output. With the stage 1, what happened? The stage 1, what happened? Stage 1. Stage 1, the MP is higher than the AP. You can say yes. MP is higher than the AP, but the thing is, within the short run, we can change only the labor part only. So without changing labor part, we call the MPL. MPL achieve the highest, but MPK become negative. MPK become negative. Why? So without changing, අරයගෙන් එන එක මෙයාට දෙන්න වෙනවා ළමයි. So this is my mistake ළමයි. This should be the stage 2 one. The last one, not a stage 1. This should be the stage 3. At the stage 3, both our selection should be positive. That means MPL and the MPK are positive, but decline. Decline means this is subject to the law of diminishing return. So if you are to become the rational economist, you need to select the optimum quantity in between the stage 2. Now we are in the calculation. That means optimum combination of inputs. Then inputs ne api දාන්නේ ළමයි. Optimum combination of inputs. Combination means what? Combination means we are going to mix. අපිට ඕන දෙකක්. So what are those two? We are going to mix the inputs. Inputs become K and L. Now we are going to mix our capital and the labor together. Combination. Optimum. Optimum කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? What is the meaning of optimum? Optimum means it's like the highest or maximum. Because being economics, you are not ended with the lowest one. You always try to end it with the highest one. So that means to achieve the highest or maximum profits. So you are going to identify the inputs levels. Inputs level means the combinations of the input that equal to the marginal revenue, where the marginal revenue equal to the marginal. So that means you need to identify the inputs level. That means to produce in the short run or long run, to product the product, both two are required නේ capital එකක් නැතුව labor තිබ්බට වැඩකුත් නැහැ, labor නැතුව capital තිබ්බට වැඩකුත් නැහැ. So that means you need to mix both together. For the mixing part, to determine the maximum profit. That means to determine the optimum combination. හොඳම combination එක අපි හොයනවා නම් at that combination, the decision criteria, your marginal benefit should equal to the marginal cost. So that means another word we can say the marginal revenue should equal to the marginal cost. So the function we can say marginal revenue product should equal to the marginal factor cost. Marginal factor cost. Marginal revenue product should equal to the marginal factor cost. So as a function, MRP equal to the MFC. MFC means we need to take only the labor. We are going to, because at the short term, we only change the labor. So that's the reason we take only the labor. But you need to combine labor with the capital. Labor with the capital. Capital එක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ ළමයි. K වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So within the short term. So that means you need to consider the too much of it. So that means you can change only the changes. Changes වෙන දෙක තමයි මේ ගත්තේ. Marginal means every time you need to take the changes. So so if you are if you are taking the additional unit of labor, how much of extra revenue you generated. So adding the extra labor, MFCL, fact එකකන labor. එක මිනිස්සෙක් දාලා how much of extra revenue you are going to generate. But the decision criteria, the extra revenue should equal to the extra cost you are making. Extra cost. To find the MRP, the marginal revenue product. Marginal revenue product. Marginal revenue product means marginal revenue in product. Marginal revenue means you are going to change the input units. So that means if you are changing the one labor, if you are changing the one labor, how much කොච්චරක් going to change the total revenue. This is one equation, delta TR divided by delta L. Delta TR divided by the delta L. Another equation we can take, the marginal revenue of product equal MPL. So MPL means what? MP means marginal product labor. I මෙතනදී labor ගන්න. Why I ignore the capital and why we take only the labor? Why? So why we take only the labor? The reason is at the short term we change only the labor, we not change in the capital. So that means the revenue change arise only changing with that labor. So the MPL into marginal revenue of quantity. Marginal revenue of the quantity. So the decision is the MR should equal to the MC. Simply and Sinhala we can say, so the marginal revenue means this is a changes. So that means අමතර ආදායමක් අමතර පිරිවැයට සමාන වෙනකන් ඔයා මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ මේක කරගෙන යන්න ඕන. So additional revenue should equal, where the point your additional revenue equal to the additional cost, you need to do the adjustment. That means you need to change the units, labor units. For the MFC means the marginal factor cost. Factor means which factor? This is become the labor. This become the labor factor. So the optimum quantity, where the optimum quantity, with that optimum quantity, the decision criteria is, so with the optimum quantity, so this decision criteria should be there. So where the point your marginal revenue product equal to the marginal product cost, that quantity you need to take as the optimum combination of the input. This is the optimum combination. So that means where, so the company employed the additional unit of labor to generate the extra revenue, if where the extra revenue equal to the extra cost, you need to increase your additional unit by unit. So the where the point these two become equal, you can select your optimum combination of input. That means when you make a you need to combine the how many curves there are and how many elves there are. Now the cost part. The revenue part we discuss, marginal revenue product discuss, the marginal factor cost. Marginal factor cost, another name you can take the marginal revenue cost. Why this cost is occurred on behalf of to generate the additional revenue. So that means if you are a this is an additional unit of variable inputs adds to the variable cost. So this is the additional cost. Why this additional cost occur? This is the additional cost. Why this cost is occur? You are trying to increase your variable input. That means you are trying to increase the labor. So to find the marginal factor cost, you need to take the total cost. So if you are changing the 1 unit of your labor, how the organization total cost become changed? The cost delta TZ divided by delta L. The optimum use of labor or the optimum use of combination where the point these two are become equal. Where the point for the MRP. So what is the formula we can take? So you can write down. So delta TR divided by so delta L. So this part for the MFC delta TC divided by delta L. This is a one way. So another formula, because with the calculation you have to use the different kind of one now. For the second one, for the MRP, there is another formula given. The previous slides, all the things are there. MRP equal marginal product of labor into marginal revenue. So this two make on an element. This 2 equal to delta Tc, where the point delta Tc equal to delta L, where the point delta Tc equal to the delta L. Okay, so now I think you have some generic understanding. So with that understanding, we have the knowledge testing. So don't believe this kind of questions are not in your examination. So this is to take the idea, because if you are giving the case study to you, you need to take the information from out of the case study. So if it is a which kind of production function, if it is a marginal production, if it is a short term one, if it is a long term one, you need to identify these things. Labor output given, see the table, the labor output given, the total product is given. Total product is given. So they are asking the marginal product. How to find the marginal product, Lamai? Marginal product. Marginal product means, so if you are changing the 1 unit of your input, so how that impact to the changes of the total product. So as a function, you can write, so the delta TP or delta Q. Delta TP or delta Q divided by delta L. Change කරන්න L නේ ළමයි. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? So this changes become 6. 6 divided by 1 becomes 6. This one 6 increase to the 16. 10. This is changes also 10. Find the values. 10. 16 to 29, 13. 29 to 14, how much? 29 to 14, this is a 15, all plus. 14 to 55 become 11. 55 to 60 become 5. 2 and the 2. Analyze the MP and analyze the MP. And now I have a question. So so where the TP become highest, where the TP raised to the highest one. So what happened to the MP? What happened to the MP? MP become negative. So now by looking at the numbers of the TP, so you can analyze the pattern of the MP. Then මොකද වෙන්නේ ළමයි මේ 62 වෙද්දි මෙයා දෙකට බහැලා තියෙනවා. So that means there is a trending was there to become the MP in negative. Stage 3 පැත්තට යන්නේ. තාම මෙයා ඉන්නේ එතකොට stage 2 වල. Stage 2. The total revenue given, the marginal revenue they given. So now we need to find the marginal revenue product. How to find the marginal revenue product? Marginal revenue product given. So simply MR can work the marginal revenue means simply MR means if they change in the 1 unit of your variable input, 1 unit of labor, how much your total product, total revenue change. එහෙනම් ඉතින් ළමයි ඔයාගේ product එක labor or anything input එක වැඩි කරොත් එකකින් automatically the marginal revenue will increase by based on the price. මෙතන ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ළමයි price එකකින්, but you need to be careful. නිකන් touch එකේ තියාගන්න, basically normally the price is the marginal revenue. Sometimes this cannot be happen. To generate the marginal revenue product, you need to take the marginal product labor, MPU we already found, and the marginal revenue of the quantity, marginal revenue given. So this one you need to multiply by with this. So that means this is a 0. 6 into 10 becomes 60. 10 into 10 become 100. 13 into 10 become 130. For the 15 into 10 become 150. 11 into 10 become 110. 5 into 10 become 50. 2 into 10 become 20. So now you can see, so after the highest point of the marginal revenue, what happened? Marginal revenue become decrease. Marginal revenue become decrease. So after the highest point, so if you're moving to the previous slide, so I can show with you. So this is become to decrease. So that means in first side, so this is continuously increasing. That means don't select any kind of things from here. The reason is the labor become efficient, but the capital become inefficient. You cannot change. Try to select the maximum quantity in between where the point the marginal revenue become high and where the point marginal revenue going to negative. So that means what is our optimum quantity criteria? Optimum quantity criteria means which one? The optimum quantity. Optimum quantity criteria, we discussed the marginal revenue of product should be equal to MRP should be equal to the marginal factor cost, MFC. So the MFC given here, where the 50 equals 50. So that's the point, the optimum quantity to the organization. That means we can see, that means only having the 6 labors, this is the maximum combination to earn the highest profit within the organization. So that is the maximum. So in that point, you can see the MRP higher than the MFC. So don't select any kind of things if it is higher than the MRP with comparing MFC. The reason is the revenue continuously increasing. මේක බලන්න ළමයි. මෙයා වැඩි වීගෙන එනවා එයාට සාපේක්ෂව compare කරද්දී. You need to select if it is the increase by the highest percentage, allow to increase. But where the point, at any point, the marginal revenue වැඩි වෙන්නේ නැහැ. වැඩි වෙලා this become to decrease. That point, this is a which one? Which law applied here? Which law ළමයි? මොන law එකද මෙතනදී apply වෙන්නේ? So which law was there? So diminishing. So which law? කතා කරන්නේ නැහනේ. So which law? The law of diminishing return will apply here. Law of diminishing return. So what does mean? The law of diminishing return means if you are increasing your inputs together, but at the some point your marginal product become decline. Marginal product become decline. So likewise, with the given case, you need to obtain the data. Now we are in to identify the production functions. Production function means every organization not produce their production processes, based on the similar way. The first one, we can identify the linear production function. Linear function means what? The relationship between variables, we have the two variables, that means the K and we have the L. This is a linear relationships. Linear relationships means the relationship between the input and total output become linear. That means this kind of relationship we call the linear. So this is a straight line. So if the relationship is a linear or if it is as a straight line, so we call the linear relationship. If it is a perfect linear means simply then make a perfect linear. Perfect linear means we can make changes in between these two kind of variables. That means we can easily replace one input with another input. අපිට පුළුවන් ළමයි මේකේ ආමට මේක හදන්න බෑ. මම එනම් මෙතන හදනවා. Easily මොකද වෙන්නේ මේ curve එක දිගේ පහළට යද්දී මෙතන automatically කියන්නේ if it is a perfect subsidies. Perfect subsidies කියන්නේ මොනවද? පූර්ණ ආදේශක. So if the මෙහෙම curve එකක් නම් curve එක දිගේ පහළට යද්දී meaning එක මොකක්ද? අපි produce කරන output එක පෙන්නන්නේ. So if I need to move from A to B, what happened? If I need to A to B, so easily I can move in between any kind of the points within the straight line. So that means, so the resources are perfect subsidies. So can we expect this kind of situation? So can we accept? No, we cannot accept, but this kind of situations was there. So this kind of situations was there, but the linear means the factors. Factors means an input. මෙන්න මේ capital and the labor easily replaced by another one. Another input we can easily replace. So as a function, the Q equal, we can write the function, the Q equal A into K plus B into L. Then L and K you already know. The K become the capital, L become the labor. May A and B මොනවාද? A and B become ළමයි coefficient values. Coefficient means the slopes. The slopes of the curve we need to use as a coefficient. The slopes. So the sometimes කෙලින්ම කියන්නේ නෑ ළමයි with the case study there's no any information relating to the if it is a linear production function. So we are giving the hint the inputs are perfect subsidies. If the inputs become the perfect subsidies, you have the idea, you need to identify this is the linear production function. Linear production function. Okay, so that means the wordings are important. If it is a inputs are perfect subsidies, the relationship between the production line, the production function become a straight line. That means easily they can replace. So the calculation was there. So that means, so according to the economy, the production function given 4k into L. Now the values were given. So they have the capital around the 5 and the labor become 2. Capital and 5. Capital pahai, labor deka. So with that calculation, we can easily identify how out of the contribution related to the capital and contribution related to the labor. Contribution from capital and we can identify the contribution from the labor. Now, methanolic lamai capital contribution. If you need to identify the capital contribution, so if you need to identify the labor contribution, you can identify these two. So according to this one, 4 into 5, 20, and the labor contribution only 2. So the total output they produce the 22. So you can explain for that economy why. So this is a perfect subsidies lamai. දැන් මේක කියනවනේ අපි කෙලින්ම කිව්ව perfect subsidies. ඕන එකක් අරගෙන labor එකෙන් නම් labor එකෙන් ගැහුවා හැකි. Capital නම් capital. Easily we can replace in between the different kind of input. So if it is an input, that means final output, that means you can identify the capital contribution 20 outputs, the labor contribution become the 2 outputs. So the capital contribution is more because these are very perfect subsidies. Fully perfect subsidies because they both are doing the same job. Simply දෙන්නම කරන්නේ එකම වගේ ඒවා හින්දා තමයි ළමයි අපි කියන්නේ perfect subsidies. Wordings keep in your mind. The next one. The next market production function is Leontief production function. We call the Leontief. What happened in the Leontief? So with the Leontief function, so they also use the inputs. This is a never change. If it is if the function is the linear function, or if it is a Leontief, or if it is a Cobb-Douglas, that's the inputs we have. But the previous one, what happened to the inputs? The inputs become the closed subsidies. If it is a closed substitutes means what? They can easily exchange in between the variable. But relating to the Leontief production function, they use the inputs. The important thing is they use the fixed proportions. කලින් එකේ වගේ ළමයි එකකින් එකක් replace කරන්න බෑ. They are using both are required with a fixed proposition. That means දෙකම ඕනා හැබැයි දෙකම ගන්නේ fixed proposition කියන්නේ අනුපාතයකින්. For the Leontief function, they are focusing the both input called the labor and also they require the capital, but both they take කලින් වගේ they cannot replace. So they take if they take labor into the 40%, they take 60 as a capital propositions. They have the fixed propositions here. So the simply if there is a fixed propositions they use to select their input. So the Leontief function we can use the another name. This is a fixed proposition production function. Fixed propositions. The propositions are fixed. So you cannot change the propositions. Previous one, the capital and labor become the substitute, but here this cannot be substitute. Why? Can you explain why this cannot be substitute? Why? If it is substitute, the Leontief function no need to take the propositions. මෙහෙම කර ඉන්න නෑනේ ළමයි. Capital loan එකට labor දාලා ගහනවා, labor loan එකට capital දාලා ගහනවා. Both can easily replace by the previous one. But the importance is we cannot consider like this. So that means the capital and labor become perfect complements. Perfect complements is what? The perfect complements. Perfect complements. The any input, one input cannot replace by other input, we call the complements. Or so without labor they cannot, so the without labor or capital they cannot produce the final output. That means both are required. එයාට ළමයි එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? එයාට capital උත් ඕන, එයාට අනිත් එකත් ඕන to produce their output. So that's the reason they ended with the fixed propositions. For the fixed proposition, how they decide this one ළමයි? දෙකෙන්ම සමානව ගන්න බෑනේ. So they cannot take the equal one by one. So that means the function we need to apply the Q equal මේ දෙන්නම ඕන min of the min function we are using min of coefficient K plus beta coefficient L. The minimum value we are going to take. Minimum values we are going to take here. For your understanding purpose, I use this one. Come to the example. So this means the production function. The production function we have which one? So which kind of inputs we have? So which kind of inputs we have, Lamai? Which kind of inputs we have? So which kind of inputs? So anyone please talk. Dias 102, 190. So which kind of inputs we used? Dias we have the 201, 227. $555. Chanaka, which kind of production functions? If it is a Leontief, which kind of resources we used? Yes, we are using the capital and labor. Yes, we have the capital and we have the labor. We are using the propositions. We are using the propositions of each one by one. To run the, so can we run the particular business without anything? Can we replace by another one? So can replace the labor by capital? Can capital replace the labor or labor can replace the capital? No. So this is become perfect complement. So this is perfect complement. Perfect complements means, so without labor or capital, so we cannot utilize the final product and service. So as the example, if there is a capital, if there is a car, to run the car, there should be a driver. If the car with driver, we can go with the one ride. So if there is a two car, definitely there need to be a two drivers. If not, so can we go for the two rides? No. මෙතන තියෙන car එකෙන් වැඩක් නැහැ ළමයි. But according to the previous one, what happened? So this one, the capital can easily replace the labor, or labor can easily replace the capital. Labor නැතුව දුවන්නත් පුළුවන්. So that's the reason for the previous one. For the previous one, so the curves become straight line. මෙහෙම එකක් ආව එකක්. So if they have the three car, so three cars means this is the capital. If they have the three car and two labor, so can we go for the three kind of rights? No, we cannot go the three rights. The reason is we are using the propositions. That means this mention the capital cannot replace the labor, labor cannot replace. So that means only two rights we can complete with the last one. So that means if we have the extra capital, this is a useless to the organization. Why? So we need to find, if it is to take the benefits, we need to find the another person who can drive the particular car. So until if the customer become the self-driver, so we can take the benefits from particular capital. If not, what happen? If there is any excess labor, what happen without car? If there is any extra driver without car, this is also useless. If it is excess cars without drivers, this is also useless. So that means to take the benefits, this should be propositions should be there. So that's the reason we apply min criteria here. Minimum දෙකම තියෙන්න ඕනේ. So if there is a no minimum criteria in both capital and labor, so we cannot proceed with the Leontief production function. We cannot proceed with the Leontief production function. Come to this one. So this means delta K capital and the labor. So how many capital we have? For the labor, how many labor we have? Only the two. So that means make ඉස්සරහින් min දැම්ම කියන්නේ ළමයි අඩු එක තෝරන්න කියලා. So අඩු එක means the Q equal to. So that means optimum quantity you can give to the particular customer, particular market, only the two. So you can give the three. So what is the thing? You have the excess capital, but you need to find the at least the person who can drive the particular vehicle. වාහනයක් තිබ්බට වැඩක් නැහැ නේ ළමයි. ඒකට ඩ්‍රයිවර් කෙනෙක් නැත්තම් එන කස්ටමර්ට හරි ඒක එලවන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන. So that's the reason for the Leontief function. They use the propositions. They use the propositions. Next one. The last function, this is the last function, Hobbs-Douglas production function. So you need to find, so the first one, linear. So the second one, proposition method. So what are the differences between previous two ළමයි? අපි දෙපැත්තට දැම්මොත් what are the differences for the linear method and the Leontief method? Linear and the Leontief, that means proposition based. The linear means there is a linear relationship, they exist, and also, so the second one, they didn't accept the linear relationship, they focus on proposition based valuation, proposition based. For the linear method, the inputs become perfect substitutes. So that means, so the one labor can replace the capital and also the capital can replace the labor. For the Leontief methods, what happened? These both two are required. Anyone cannot replace by labor or capital. Both two are required. So without having these two, we cannot complete the final product. The last method, the Hobbs-Douglas. So the one thing for the Leontief again, so both two are become perfect complements. Perfect complements. For the third one, the Hobbs-Douglas production function. Hobbs-Douglas function, so they are going to highly focus on the sustainability of the inputs. So this is the methods, they fully focus on So the degree of sustainability among inputs. So that means the which kind of benefits they can take. They highly focus on the maximum benefits available in the inputs we call the Cobb-Douglas production function. If it is a Cobb-Douglas, they need to focus on the maximum benefits can take by using the input for a sustainable way. තියෙන දේ කාලා බීලා දාන්නේ නැතුව ළමයි they try to take maximum benefits without making so less impact to the particular resources, making a less damage or the less impact to the resources inputs. They try to take the maximum. So the Cobb-Douglas function, it's not fully based on the linear production function and the Leontief production function. ඒ දෙන්නගේ අඩුපාඩු ටික අරගෙන ළමයි Cobb-Douglas, this is the middle one. For the actual market, this is the fully set with the market conditions. This is the practical approach when comparing with other two situations. So this is very practical. So because they focus on to take the maximum benefits from the capital as well as the labor, take the maximum, making very less impact to the resources. Resources වලට අඩුවෙන්ම බලපෑමක් කරලා වැඩියෙන්ම ගන්න තමයි Cobb-Douglas production function එක try කරන්නේ. As the equation, so the equation given A multiplied by the K to the power A, L to the power B. Q means you already know the total production, because our final target is to produce the optimum quantity, to produce the maximum quantity by utilizing the optimum quantity of output input. So what is the decision criteria to determine the optimum quantity of input? So what is the decision criteria? What is the decision criteria to select the optimum quantity of inputs? Inputs කොහොමද දාන්නේ කියන criteria එක මොකක්ද ළමයි? The criteria is the marginal product revenue. Marginal revenue product should be equal to the marginal factor cost. We can say, so this is the optimum input. But the Cobb-Douglas, in between these two functions, the Q become the total production, K you already know the K become the capital, the L become the labor, A means what? A become the productivity. The reason is the focus on sustainability, making less impact to take the more benefits. You need to apply the total factor productivity and you are going to adjust the A and B means output elasticity of capital and output elasticity of labor. So output elasticity, A means the output elasticity of capital, B means output elasticity of labor. So the final answer become the maximum quantity according to the Cobb-Douglas function. Next day I will discuss with you the cases. Okay. Relating to the Cobb-Douglas function, we need to find we have the two kind of inputs. We have the two kind of the inputs. To identify the two kind of inputs, first you need to find the marginal product of labor. Marginal product of labor, because we have the labor and also we have the capital. To find out the marginal product of labor, so what is the formula? B into K to the power A, L, B minus 1. So what is this? So the B means what? B means what? B means what? B කිව්වේ මොකක්ද? Output elasticity of labor. You need to take output elasticity of labor and you need to deduct output elasticity of labor to 1. For the change for the capital also, the A become the output elasticity of capital, and out of that elasticity you need to deduct 1. So you can find the answer for applying these two. For the Cobb-Douglas function, this why this is a best method. This focus into making a less harmful impact to the resources. They're trying to make a maximum benefits to the maximum productions to the organization. Okay. So next task, you need to identify which kind of properties of the Cobb-Douglas function. So what are the properties of the Cobb-Douglas function? Properties means what, Lamai? The properties. The first property is the Cobb-Douglas function, the focus on the sustainability. The sustainability means what? Sustainability means what? So the sustainability we can identify this is a one concept of the so we are going to learn this concept as well. The sustainability is one concept of isocont. So this is a one concept of isocont curve. Isocont. So the isocont means so we are going to make the less impact to the resources and we try to take the more benefits. So that means so we are sustain the extract the same level of output sap in your inputs. We are going to sustain the extract same level of output. So we are going to sustain the same level of output. අපි output එක වෙනස් කරන්නේ නැහැ ළමයි. We are going to sustain with same level of output swapping your inputs. Swapping your inputs means you are going to change only your inputs. You are going to change only the inputs. Changing the inputs, you are going to reach the defined amount of output. So why it's become the sustainability means sustainability hold they are making the less impact. Sustainable means so the simply sustainability sustainability means so reduce the wastage. So without wasting the resources to take the maximum benefits. ඒකයි මේ sustainability ආවේ. Cobb-Douglas කිව්වෙත් මොකක්ද? Cobb-Douglas explain so the try to make the same level of output by swapping your inputs. Swapping your inputs means what? ඔයාට එකක් ගන්න හැබැයි try කරන්න to reduce your inputs. Changing the reducing the inputs if you try to maintain the same level of extract output we call the you are sustainable with the Cobb-Douglas function because the one proposition become the sustainability. So you can see by looking at the data, so sustain means the 122 is the 4 times. So that means that is the maximum number was there. So that means by looking at this number, so we can identify to become the sustainable. So we need to produce the particular 122 units. This is also 122 we have for the 4 places. Relating to the first one, how many resources we need for the capital? We need 8 resources. For the labor, we need only the 3. So what happened to this one? If we change this quantity, what happened? Our capital become decrease and the labor become increase. Labor become increase. So to achieve the same level of output same lamai, we are going to change the inputs. So the 8 8 ඉඳලා 6ට අඩු වුණා. දෙකක් අඩු වුණා. So මෙතන මොකද උනේ? 3 ඉඳලා එකක් වැඩි වුණා. So the increase and the decrease. In here, this is 122. That means, oh, here to this how 4.6 into 4. 4ට අඩු වෙනවා. මෙතනින් 6 වෙනවා. In here, this is increased to 8. This will become the 3. So you can identify the changes as well. First, try to identify here. 3 ඉඳලා 4ට යද්දි ළමයි you can identify the split percentage as well. 3 into 4. එකක්නේ වැඩි වෙන්නේ. එතකොට කීයද? Capital increment by which percentage? Capital එකක් වැඩි වෙලා. එතකොට 3ක් තිබිලා එකක් වැඩි වුණානේ. So that means around 33%. This is 33 increase. What happened to the capital? 8 to 6 වුණා. 8 ඉඳලා 6ට අඩු වුණානේ. දෙකක් අඩු වුණා. එතකොට කීයද percentage? 2 divided by 8. 2 divided by 8. That means 25%. You are going, this is decreased by the 25%. So to achieve the same level of output, so you are going to reduce your inputs. With this net impact become the 25, this is 33. 33. Finally, there is 8 was there. So likewise, this is not to find the percentage. Simply you can identify to achieve the same quantity. The Cobb Douglas say to achieve the same level of quantity, you are going to change your inputs. We call the Cobb Douglas. To achieve the sustainability means you need to make a less impact to your resources. For the sustainability, so the explanation given, so this is the centralized problem within the other functions, but when it comes to the Cobb Douglas function, this is the fundamental problem was there. So that means the utilizations of the resources. Utilization of the resources. But the issue is there is a restriction. The restriction is, there is a restriction. The restriction is if you are use the one factor of production requires so that less some other factors to be employed. Which one? So sometimes it mentions increase the use of one factor of production. Increase the use of one factor of production requires two less factors to be employed. There is a restriction to increase the production. They meant to increase the production. Sometimes there is a restriction to requirement of the lower factors, because the Cobb Douglas talk about to utilize the lower inputs. But with the practically issues can be there. There is a restriction. අපිටම තේරෙනවා ළමයි කියන විදිහට කරන්න බෑ. Because there are a lot of limits were there. Because relating to the productive resources within the organization, there are a lot of issues were there. But theoretically, we can say this function should be there. So likewise, you can comment. Being an economist, your objective should be to achieve your production process that relates to the Cobb Douglas functions. The next one for the returns to scale. Returns to scales means what? Returns. Returns to scale. Returns to scale means sometimes we are changing increase the outputs by changing the inputs. The returns to scale means our return is the output. අපේ return එක වෙන්නේ ළමයි output. The changes of the output is equal to the changes of the inputs. So the changes of the inputs equal to the changes of the final output, we call the returns to scale. Return become the output. The proportionate increase in output, that means the output changes that results from why this output change, the increase of your inputs employed in the production process. So that means due to your changes in your inputs means if it is relating to the capital, if it is relating to your capital or labor, based on the same percentage, your returns become increased due to the different kind of things. The returns to scale means the your inputs increase. So the proportionate of the changes of your inputs should equal or they should tally with the changes of your output. So how it can be happen? They talk about the returns to scale means the changes. The first thing, the changes of the capital and labor fully tally with the same scalar, the tally with the returns. So that's the thing we call the quantity 2 means after changes, quantity 2 means your return should equal to the lambda q1. The lambda means what? The lambda means scalar factor or multiplication. So this is a multiplier. Make a ගුණකයක් ළමයි. So that means the first one, your input changes increase by the same scalar, same percentage එකෙන් වෙනස් වෙනවා නම් we call this is a constant return. So this is called constant return. So this kind of situation. So as a graphical presentation, so the examination we expect these things as well for the graphical. So you can draw. So this is a capital with this axis. This is the labor. So this is not a linear cross. This is a curves. This is my first one and this is my second one. This is Q1. This is Q2. Why? So if I increase the input, definitely my output should increase. My first input become 1000. values input become 1000. So this is become 2000. Q quantity become 2000. This is quantity become 1000. And here we need to select the capital requirement. Both two. For the first one, the capital I will take 100. So this is 200. So this is also 10 into 20. So the CRTS means the constant returns to scale. Constant. දෙපැත්තේ වැඩි වෙන එක සමාන වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So if it is the returns in your factor, the K how much increase? K මේ පැත්තේ වැඩි වෙන්නේ කොහොමද ළමයි? C ඉඳලා 200 වුණා. That means this is increased by 100%. This is can be increased by the 100. What happened to this one? 1000 වුණා. So that means your quantity increased by the same percentage. We call the 100%. So if it is this side 10 to 20 una, so that is increased by the 100. That is increased by the 100. So that means this is also 100. So this is the CRTS rule. The return to scale means the changes, your proportionate changes of the inputs and the outputs should tally with the or unequal or different kind of situation. First one, it can be tally. The second scenario, come to the second scenario. The second scenario, so the thing is the output, your output increased by a multiple greater than the scalar. We call the increase in returns to scalar. The output increases more than your changes. Q2 means high. Increase. Output එකට impact එක වැඩි. the lambda and the Q1 become lower. The lambda means scalar factor. Scalar factor means your changes relating to the inputs. Said simply, the how much you increase your inputs. How much you increase your inputs. So if it is a IRTS means increase in returns to scale. Increase in time. Return එකට යන පැත්ත වැඩි වෙන්න ඕන more than the output return should be more than the input changes. As a graphical presentation, so we can write two needs. So these two, so Q1 I will take this is as a 100, Q2 I will take as a 250, 250. So this is 100 to 200. So this I will select 100 to 20. So now you can see the changes of the capital. This is a capital. Capital changes is 100%. Capital changes is 100%. But here, see this year. So that means definitely 150. So what happened? The changes of the output is higher than the changes of the inputs. The relating to the returns to scale, we call the situation IRTS situation. For the IRTS means the increase in returns was there. Increase in means you are after making the adjustment to the inputs, there is a more impact to your outputs. Return negative බලපෑම. So in here also 10 to 20, 100 වැඩි වුණා ළමයි මෙතනින් වැඩිපුර ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. So the last situation, I think now you can take the idea. So this is a DRTS, decrease in returns. Sometimes you increase your output, your inputs more than, but finally this this changes impact to your output on less percentage, less incrementals there. So that means we call the DRTS. So the thing is, when we are giving the graphical presentations, you need to identify if it is a CRTS situation, if it is a increase in returns, if it is a decrease in return, means this three kind of returns. If it is a CR, DR or IR, this one link with the returns to scale link with the Cobb-Douglas function. So these are the different kind of propositions of the Cobb-Douglas. Because the first one, they talk about the fully linear relationships. This talk doesn't talk about the linear relationships. So this is to show the production. So the Cobb-Douglas function. So you can see the changes, lamai. This is a 50 to 100 tuna. Percentages. This is a 100%. 100. Methana 2 into 4. How much? 2 into 4. This is become 2 into 4. 2 into 4 means this is also 100. 2 into 4 means 100. So which kind of return to scale was there? So this is a constant. This is a constant return to scale. CRTS situation. Come to the second one. 4 to 6. 4 ඉඳලා තව දෙකක් වැඩි වුණා. How much? So this means 50. 50. 4 into 6 means this is also 50. So 100 to 150 වුණා. So that means 50. So this is also CRTS. In here 6 into 2. Higher තිබිලා දෙකක් වැඩි වුණා. That means how much? So that means 33%. 6 into 8. So that is also 33. So check whether if it is a 50. So that is also 33. So that means throughout the selected variable, there is a constant returns to scale was there. So that means your changes on input equal to the changes of the output. Both propositions are equally worked on your output and your input. The last one become the Cobb-Douglas function, also based on the diminution marginal return. So the diminution marginal return means what? Diminution marginal product. So diminution marginal product means if you are increasing your all the inputs to the production, but so if it is an increase in, so after the specific point, what happened? Your returns become decrease. So your returns become decrease. We call the law of diminishing function, diminishing production. Because if it is relating to the make the positive impact, so that means you need to select your variable input, your production decision based on the stage 2. So after that, what happened? After the applying to the diminution marginal product, your marginal product become negative. Your marginal product become negative. So we have one question. So once we complete the questions for the today's, we will try to complete the another few parts, and for the remaining part I will discuss with you next week, or I will put the recorded sessions to you, follow it. Okay. For the question given, for the consultant provides you the following estimates on your Cobb-Douglas function. So what is the average product of labor? So they are asking the average product of labor. Average product of labor. They ask in the APL. So the concept are important, Lamaya. The concept are important. They ask in average product of labor. Labor was when the 4 units and the 9 units of capital are employed. So if you are employed the 4 units of the labor and the 9 units of the capital. So if we are apply the values here, we will receive the Q. Q means we will receive the total product. We will receive the total product. Yes, here we have, this is the function. For the now you can apply the K become the 9 to the power half power, L become the 4 to the power half. So now you can find the Q. 3 භාගය බලය කීයද ළමයි? 3 භාගය බලය 3 into the power, that means 3 to the power 3 into 1 half. No, 3 to the power 2. So that means the answer become 3. මේ පැත්තෙත් එහෙමමයි 4 භාගය කියන්නේ. 4 means 2 to the power 2 index numbers we can multiply. So that means 3 into 2, the answer becomes 6. So that means we can produce the 6 quantity. So we can produce the 6 quantity. But they ask what? They ask in the AP. AP means average product of labor. How to find the average product of labor? APL equal, you know the formula, Q divided by the L. L means the labor. The Q becomes 6 divided by how many labor we have? We have the 4 labor. 6 divided by 4. So you can find the answer. The APL become 1.5. APL become 1.5. So for the explanation, you can say for the if we have the 4 workers are responsible to produce 1.5 units of the total output. So this simply 4 workers. We have the 4 workers. The 4 workers are averagely, for the normally, they need to produce 1.5 units for the total output. Hey, workers let me because there is another capital requirement was there. So if it is within the total requirement, they need to produce the 1.5. The remaining balance, they need to prepare the capital requirement with the capital requirement. So this is for you. So please practice at home. The next one, the isocons. We can start with the isocons. So can we continue? I will put the recorded session now next week. Can we do it? Alame. Isocons we have, isocost we have. This is the last part of the sessions. So what we can do? Shall I continue to additional 10 minutes? So I will give you some idea on the assignments on the next week, Lamai, because I also didn't open new assignment documents yet. That's the reason. So I didn't open any assignment document yet. So I also know you need to submit your individual assignment at the week 7. Okay. So I will check all the things and so I will let you know within this week. Okay. So with that, only thing I will complete the isocont part only. Yeah? Isocont. Isocont means simply this is a combination of your input. Isocons means the combination. So we have the different kind of combination. So the combination of inputs we means combination of your capital and the labor to produce the same level of output we call the isocon. Simply the isocons means the combination of inputs. These are the inputs. අපි හොයන්න යනවානේ ළමයි මේ inputs. The combination of inputs that produce the same level of output. මේ input again should be contribute to produce same level of output. So the isocons curve, looking at the isocons curve, this is a convex. So what is the meaning of the convex? What is the meaning of convex? There is a two words, convex and concave. Anyone? Convex and concave. Convex means what? Isocons are convex. Convex කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? So what is the meaning of the convex? Isocons are convex. Convex means දැන් මෙහෙම බැලුවොත් ඔයාලට curve එක මොන විදිහටද පේන්නේ? Isocons are convex. මේක නම් if it is these two are the borders, so we call, if these two are become the boundaries, these are the slopes are which one? Outward. This is outwards. මූණේට මේ පැත්ත නම් boundary එක ළමයි මේක කොහොමද තියෙන්නේ? මූණට උත්තල විදියට ඉදිරියට අවිලා we call the convex. Concave means අනිත් පැත්තට නිරලා නම් මේ පැත්තට තියෙන බෑවුම නම් we call the convex. So if it is a convex, so that means simply මෙන්න මේ simply isocons means the different kind of combination. So why the convex doesn't become the straight line? So please give the answer. I will complete only the isocons only. So why isocons not become the straight lines? Alamai, why isocons not become the straight line? The reason is the inputs are not the perfect subsidies. Input are not the perfect subsidies. That means the isocons curve. Isocons කියන combination නේ. මේ තියෙන්නේ production එකට ගන්න එක එක capital සහ labor වල තියෙන requirement දාලා හදපු curve එකක් ළමයි. එතකොට මේ curve එක කවදාවත් මේවා වෙන්න බෑ. So if it is a become a straight line, simply this is become the what happened? This is become the both are we can exchange together, both are straight, both are replaced together. We call this should be the straight line. Both are required for the production. So that means if you come to the lower side of the curves, curve in pahalata we call this is a highly focused on the labor. මේ පැත්තට එද්දි labor market එකට බර වෙනවා. So that means the increase in the labor propositions. If you go inside the curves, so this is fully the capital values are increasing. Capital values are increasing. So curves දිගේ දිගට යද්දී මෙහෙට යද්දී මොකද වෙන්නේ? Values are increasing. So that means your output මේ මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මෙතන Q62, 55, your outputs are increasing. Your outputs are increasing. If you come to the below the particular isocons, we call the labor substitute by the capital. Labor again capital requirement they will be deducted. Why this are become the curves? The reason is the resources are not the perfectly sustainable. Perfectly sustainable. Isocons means simply ඔයා දන්න එක මෙන්න මේ use කරන inputs වල combination, different kind of combination. මෙතන ගත්තොත් if it is a isocons mark is the 1500 into 2 labor. 1500 into 2 labor. So if it is a resources become perfect subsidies, now you already know if it is become the perfect subsidies, your isocons become parallel line to each other. This slope should be equal. The slope should be equal. The slope, the same we are producing the same level of output by using the same level of input. Parallel unknown. If it is a perfect subsidies. The next one, if the isocons curve become the right angle, if it is a perfect complements, the curves become the right angle. The curves become right angle. So with the calculation and everything, we can discuss with the next day. Okay, so for the today's session, so we can wind up with the first part of the isocon. Because after that we have the few more to discuss. Because all the things we are included in the case study, don't worry. So we can discuss the question one by one, and you can refer the recording once I complete the session. So I will put the recording for you, so you can refer it, and any questions you can ask. Okay, so thank you for the participation. For the next day onward, I also mark your attendance by using the QR code. Only for the today, so we can take the Zoom attendance. For the next week onwards, you need to mark your attendance by using the QR. Anything to be clarified? For the assignment, definitely I will give you the idea on before the end of this semester, this week. So that means for the Friday, I have the training session around the 4. So after 4, so I'll be inform you relating to the requirement. This is the individual assignments, Lamai. The deadlines did never be changed. So that means please practice. Okay, so that means thank you for the participation. Try to participate for the all the sessions. So the after this, only madam having the only the one session, or other remaining sessions will be conducted by myself. Your support is highly required to conduct the sessions. If not, so we are talking කියෝගෙන යනවා විතරයිනේ ළමයි. ඒක නිසා චුට්ටක් ඉතින් හිතන්න අපි ගැන. Okay, so on that, ඔයාලටත් මහන්සි වැඩට ගිහිල්ලා ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. So thank you for the participation. So good night.